inspirational to hear what people who spoke before me said. So, as Jemil said, I'm Shady. I'm 19 years old, and just a bit about my background. I was born here in London, in the UK, and I came back to London 6 years ago. And before that, I lived in Yemen, Lebanon, and Egypt, respectively. So, from that perspective, I think that Yemeni youth who were brought up in the UK have a huge advantage over me, since they grew up being accustomed to the system and so forth. So currently I'm working within JP Morgan, within the global commodities team. And one of the factors I realized that to reach to that point, it wasn't as easy as I thought in the beginning. And something we all have to take into consideration, something which I strongly feel that society, especially here in the UK and in other countries, does not emphasize enough, are some of these things which we need to have in order to achieve. So things as being proactive. So in terms to reach to my internship, I had to fail so many times in the steps, and then eventually I managed to sort of gain my position. Things like, even if opportunity doesn't knock, you have to build your own door. You go out and you look for these opportunities. The opportunities, you can't just stay there and hope that opportunities will come to you. Something else which I learned, which I thought was vital, was it's very important for us, and Yemeni youth, especially here in the UK, to go out of our comfort zone. It's very easy to remain within the comfort zone and hope that everything will happen, but unless you actually go forward and take that first step, nothing will actually happen. And I think it's a fundamental problem within society who say that failure is a problem. From my perspective, I think that failure forms the foundation of successes. And you'll fail once, you'll fail twice, you will learn from these experiences, and you'll get up again as a stronger person, and that will help you in your future. A few years ago, I used to think that failure was abysmal. But then now, I realize that the things which I failed in, internships which I was rejected from, have actually helped me to become more confident. It helped me with the interview stage and so on, the application process. So moving away from my background and just a few advice to the Yemeni youth. I know it might sound patronizing because I'm a youth myself, but I'll try to say a few words. So I'll try to highlight that by speaking about my favorite British politician, and who's arguably one of the greatest politicians who ever entered the House of Commons. And since we're here in the House of Commons, I think it would be appropriate to mention him. So he's the architect of one nation liberalism, one nation conservatism, a really great politician, and that's Benjamin Disraeli. So something. So Benjamin, you might have realized his statues outside the Westminster Palace as he came in. He's a very great politician, and something which I really admire about Benjamin Disraeli is his perseverance. So let's look at his background in case you're not familiar. Disraeli came from an Italian Jewish background, and until 1858, Jews were actually excluded from sitting in Parliament. However, he was baptized at the age of 12, so he didn't face that problem. However, he didn't come from the most privileged background. And in the 1930s, in the early 1830s, something which I found very admiring is that it took him 4 times to become a member of Parliament between 1830 to 1837. So 4 times, that shows the perseverance. He ran first as a radical, second as a Whig, third as an independent, and fourth he managed to actually enter into Parliament as a Tory in 1837. And that's something which I really admire about him. He never went to university, he came from a modest background. And something else was that in 1837, in his maiden speech here in the House of Commons, he probably sat here somewhere 150 or more years ago. So in his maiden speech, he was actually ridiculed, yelled at, shouted. And something which is very interesting about Disraeli is his perseverance. When he said, I will sit down now, in 1837, he said, I'll sit down now, but the day will come when you will hear me. And that did in fact happen, despite all the perseverance. 1852, he became Chancellor of the Exchequer. 1868 and 1874, respectively, he became the Prime Minister of the UK. He became the Prime Minister of the UK twice. 1876, he became Lord Beaconsfield. He was knighted. And that goes on to show how perseverance could lead you to huge possibilities. And in 1868, when he became Prime Minister for his first term, he actually said, I finally managed to climb the greasy pole. So he's referring to his sort of unprivileged background and his Jewish background, and in spite of that, he managed to become the Prime Minister of the UK. So I think we could all learn something from Benjamin Disraeli, and that was the greasy pole he was speaking to around 150 years ago. Unfortunately now, that greasy pole is even more slippery. So something which we all could learn from Disraeli is perseverance, is determination, and whenever we fall back, it took him 4 times to become Member of Parliament, and he used that as his motive and continued and became Prime Minister. So I think through the Yemeni education network, Yemeni youth in the UK should be able to fulfill their hopes, their aspirations, and their dreams through sort of like a system of mentorship. And I hope that this network could go on to become very successful. And I believe that together as a Yemeni community here in the UK, we'd be able to go a very long way so far as we remain determined, and the hope remains. Thank you very much for listening.
Hands up if you think Shady will be a politician. Okay, listen, we've run out of time, so I would firstly like to thank the Right Honourable Qubaty for helping to organise this and arrange this.
We want to thank you, and I've got a box of House of Commons chocolates.
I would also like to thank His Excellency for taking the part, and Rafat and all of the other speakers, particularly the Yemeni Educational Network and the Yemeni Community Coordinator Council, without which we wouldn't be here today.